Hey, you clicked on my video. Appreciate it. Now be sure to like the video and subscribe to the page. Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. We do it every week around this time. It's time to buy, sell, or hold LSU stock after the Arkansas game. So I won't go through every position like we usually do because, look, we know so much about this team at this point. We don't really need to restate the obvious, and I don't need to waste your time doing all that crap. Having said that, let me start with a rant, and let's start with the head man himself, Brian Kelly. I need to get this off my chest. So I don't know what the hell else Brian Kelly needs to do to earn respect amongst some people in college football. Maybe it's a national championship. Maybe that's what will do it. Okay, fine, but there are still people saying, no, that's not going to happen even after what I've seen so far. Really? Now, look, I could nitpick some things, okay? I don't like the decisions that he's made on certain drives to go for it on fourth down, specifically against Tennessee and Arkansas. I think, honestly, when his team is struggling, especially offensively, he can sometimes make poor decisions on when to go for it on fourth down and when not to. It can be admirable, but it also can be reckless. But a lot of coaches nowadays seem to be doing that right now. That's my biggest criticism of Brian Kelly's coaching so far this season. But outside of that, we're nitpicking. Because I'm still hearing fans and media questioning Brian Kelly as, is it going to work out at LSU? Is he going to win a national championship? I still don't think so. Okay, he's now turned around 5 different programs. Has more wins than any active coach in college football. He's the winningest coach in the history of Notre Dame football. Yet I still hear, the SEC West is kind of down because Brian Kelly won it this year. Well, Alabama is down this year. They're not quite as good. LSU had 39 scholarship players at the end of last season. They have 2 true freshman tackles on the offensive line. They only have 63 healthy scholarship players playing every single week. What the fuck is Bama's excuse exactly? I mean, it is dumbfounding that these people, reasonable people, after all these years, still don't respect Brian Kelly. I've never seen it before. Anything like it in my entire life. Whatever lame-ass bullshit excuse people want to keep telling themselves about Brian Kelly being at LSU, deep down, I think they know what's coming for their ass. And they know it's coming for them for the next decade. Buy stock. All right, moving on. Madhouse, buy stock. He was just named a semi-finalist or nominee for the Broyles Award, which is the award for the top assistant coach in the country. Surprising to absolutely no one, but buy stock. Mike Denbrock, buy. Look, I know they only scored 13 points, but LSU's wide receivers were wide open all day against Arkansas. It was just the offense, once again, didn't have a play calling problem. It had an execution problem. And I'll let you know who it was in a minute. But let's talk about Brian Pulley and the special teams coordinator. Well. After the last 3 weeks, no special teams problems. Things are slowly getting better each and every week. Look, I don't think he's going to be fired anymore like I probably said he would be earlier in the season. But as I said from the beginning, I was dumbfounded by it, truly dumbfounded by it, because good coaches and players don't become bad coaches and bad players overnight. It's the same thing I told you about Brian Kelly and Mike Denbrock with the offense earlier in the season. Give it time. Are there still some things to nitpick? Yeah, but some of that is just the situation you've been dealt, and you're kind of doing the best you can. I think really what this was is Brian Pulley getting to learn his roster a little bit better. And also, if you listen to Jay Bramblett, who did an interview before the Alabama game, the LSU's punter, he said that, honestly, some of the guys in the locker room weren't taking special teams as seriously as they should have. Maybe that's true, maybe that isn't. Or maybe that's just a guy sort of sticking up for his coach and calling out some other guys individually. I don't know. All I know is proof's in the pudding. Brian Pulley's not going anywhere. He's not a bad coach. All right, let's move on to the players. Jaden Daniels. So I'll still buy because I think what he did in the previous weeks against those defenses, which are considerably better than Arkansas's, kind of shows you that this may be an aberration. And considering who you're playing the next 2 weeks, UAB and Texas A&M, whose defenses are not that great, especially A&M's, I have no real trouble believing that Jaden Daniels is not going to have get-right games before you have to play Georgia in the SEC title. But, having said that, Jaden Daniels did regress against Arkansas. He regressed back to what he was at the beginning of the season. Not keeping his eyes downfield, not throwing with anticipation, not stepping into the pocket, stepping into sacks. Look, I don't know why he did, but he did. Maybe it was the cold weather. Maybe it was he had the flu. Maybe he just saw something differently and he had those 2 turnovers and he got kind of spooked. I don't know. Maybe that's what it was. But hopefully, this isn't now we have the blueprint to stop Jaden Daniels and expose him. Play what Arkansas played. Did Arkansas give other teams the blueprint on how to stop Jaden Daniels? Or was it just a fluky game? Again, the next few weeks will tell. My guess, and this is just a guess from people I've heard, from things I've watched, is that teams are going to try and repeat what Arkansas did to Jaden Daniels in the offense. Because what Arkansas did was very unusual and something that LSU had not seen so far this season. That's what concerns me. But it's on Jaden Daniels and the coaches to make adjustments to try and fix it. Offensive line by, wide receivers by. Look, they were open all day. Jaden Daniels just didn't get them the ball. Same old thing that we talked about at the beginning of the season. Running backs by, but here's what I'll say. I haven't talked about this guy enough, and many of you have brought it up, and shame on me for not bringing it up enough. Josh Williams. He is going to be drafted into the NFL. I feel very confident in that. I'm not saying he's going to be drafted necessarily this upcoming draft, but I think he will be drafted into the NFL. Josh Williams is about as honest a running back as you will find in college football. Not most talented, most honest. Honest meaning that he doesn't really have a weakness. I mean, think about it. He can do a little bit of everything, and he does a little bit of everything at least really well. His fundamentals are flawless in catching, pass protection, running, protecting the football, situational awareness. But despite all of those things, and I expect a walk-on to have all of those non-talent issues down pat, but the biggest thing that has surprised me this season when it comes to Josh Williams is his acceleration in open space. Ever since that big run that he broke out against Florida, his athleticism in open space, his acceleration, has been probably my biggest surprise of the season so far when it comes to that position. In the same way, quite honestly, that Clyde Edwards-Helaire surprised me in 2019. A lot of people were just ready for the young guys to step up and replace him, but he shook up a lot of people, and he shut me up for sure, and I'm glad he did. Defense. There's no need to give more praise to the defensive line or to the linebackers. I will say, though, that it's amazing how when it comes to Harold Perkins, we have gone from, well, is Jaden Daniels going to be a potential Heisman candidate to, is Harold Perkins going to be a potential Heisman candidate? If it comes down to stats, he'll have a chance to rack up some stats against UAB and A&M these next 2 weeks. And obviously he's going to be on a big stage trying to chase down Stetson Bennett. Will be a hell of a lot easier to chase him down as opposed to Bryce Young or Malik Hornsby for Arkansas. But here is what still concerns me about this defense. The defensive back room. Y'all, LSU had a lot of trouble against Ole Miss's wide receivers and Tennessee's wide receivers. LSU hasn't faced great wide receiver rooms, but when they have, they've been pushed around. That's the bad news. I think objectively you can say that. Now, here's the good news. You don't face wide receiver cores or good wide receiver cores or even great wide receiver cores the rest of the season. Unless you make it to the college football playoff and you play another team like Ohio State, who knows? But UAB doesn't have great wide receivers. Texas A&M doesn't. They have one good freshman wide receiver, but if he wears his sleeves the wrong way, who the fuck knows if he plays or not? I don't know what's going on down there with College Station. But anyways, and also Georgia, which you will play. Georgia has the best tight end in the nation, but they've got some average wide receivers who have struggled most of the year outside of playing overrated Oregon team and a bad Tennessee pass defense. Both of those teams and defenses rank in triple digits in pass protection, by the way. So outside of that, Georgia's biggest struggles on their offense, really their whole team, have been the explosiveness of their wide receivers. That's something LSU can take advantage of. So is it a weakness for LSU's defensive back room that we don't talk about enough? Yes. But the good news is it may not get exposed the rest of the year. Because, as they say, matchups make good fights. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok in the description link below.